She made Time's list and she's just getting started. The Alexandra Eala story that's changing everything. What is up, Court Vision Plus family? Stop what you are doing right now, because what we are about to break down today is not just a tennis story. This is a cultural earthquake. This is the kind of moment that comes along once in a generation, the kind that makes you put your phone down, call your family into the room, and say, you need to see this. Alexandra Eala, the 20-year-old Phenom from Quezon City, Philippines, has just been named one of Time magazine's 100 most influential people in global sports, and the entire world of athletics is still picking its jaw up off the floor. We are not talking about a regional award. We are not talking about a participation trophy or a friendly nod from a local governing body. We are talking about Time magazine, the same publication that has put the most transformative figures in human history on its cover, planting its flag firmly in the ground and declaring to every corner of the planet that Alexandra Eala is not coming, she has already arrived. Buckle up, because today we are going all the way in on the rise of a queen. Now, before we get into the present glory, we have to honor the foundation. Because nobody gets to a Time 100 list without a blueprint that is built on something deeper than raw talent. The story of Alex Eala is a story of sacrifice written before she was even old enough to fully understand what sacrifice meant. Born into a family where athletic excellence was practically woven into the DNA, her mother Riza, a former Southeast Asian Games bronze medalist in swimming, Alex was always surrounded by the idea that greatness was achievable. But the specific brand of greatness she was chasing? That was entirely her own. Tennis, in the Philippines, is not the first sport that leaps to mind. You think Philippines, you think basketball, you think boxing, you think the thunderous arenas packed with Pacquiao faithful. Tennis? That was a different kind of ambition. That was audacious. And Alex Eala has always been audacious. As a young teenager, she made a decision that would define the rest of her life. She packed her bags, kissed her family goodbye, and flew halfway around the world to Mallorca, Spain, to train at the Rafa Nadal Academy. Let that image sink in for a moment. A kid, barely in her teens, leaving behind the warmth of home, the familiar comfort of Filipino culture, the sounds and smells of Quezon City, to grind it out on the red clay courts of Spain under the philosophy of one of the most demanding, most disciplined tennis programs on the face of the earth. Most people would have wilted under that kind of pressure. Most people would have found the homesickness unbearable, the competition crushing, the weight of expectation too heavy to carry. Alex Eala did not wilt. She bloomed. She took the relentless work ethic that defines the Nadal Academy and she fused it with something those Spanish courts had never quite seen before, the specific, unbreakable fire of a Filipina girl with something to prove to the entire world. She sharpened her signature two-handed backhand into one of the most feared weapons in junior tennis. She developed a movement that was equal parts explosive and precise. And she started winning. She claimed the Australian Open girls title. She won the U.S. Open girls doubles. She stacked up junior Grand Slam hardware while simultaneously keeping her eyes locked on the prize that actually mattered, the professional tour. Because for Alex Eala, junior glory was never the destination. It was always just the warm-up. Then came 2025, and the warm-up was officially over. If there was a year that announced Alexandra Eala to the global sporting conversation in letters so large you could see them from space, it was 2025. The breakout was not subtle. It was not a gentle introduction. It was a full-scale detonation. The Miami Open, one of the most prestigious and brutally competitive WTA 1000 events on the entire calendar, became the stage for a Cinderella story so dramatic that even Hollywood screenwriters would have struggled to write it more compellingly. She walked in unseated, underestimated by most and ignored by many, and she proceeded to systematically dismantle every obstacle placed in front of her. First came Jelena Ostapenko, the ferocious Latvian bomber who hits the ball with a kind of reckless, terrifying power that most players simply cannot handle. Eala handled it. Then came Madison Keys, the American powerhouse, a Grand Slam champion with weapons that can end rallies in the blink of an eye. Eala dismantled her. And then, in a match that did not just stop traffic in Manila but stopped hearts across the entire continent of Asia, she faced the undisputed #1 player in the world, Iga Swiatek. The Polish juggernaut. The clay court empress. The machine who had been running roughshod over the tour for years. Alexandra Eala beat her. Not on a lucky day. Not through smoke and mirrors. But through clean, aggressive, take-no-prisoners tennis that announced her arrival with the kind of authority you simply cannot argue with. Social media did not just react, it melted. The hashtags flew. The videos went viral. And over 100 million Filipinos collectively lost their minds in the most beautiful way imaginable. She went on to become the first Filipino in the Open era to reach a WTA Tour-level final.
4K15.
This would be...
Game? Yeah.
Let us just pause right there and sit with that fact for a second. The Open era of tennis began in 1968. Over half a century of professional tennis, and it took until 2025 and one extraordinary young woman from Quezon City to put the Philippines on that particular map. She reached the grass court final in Eastbourne, proving her game was not a one-surface wonder but a complete, adaptable, dangerous toolkit that could terrorize opponents on hard courts, clay, and the slippery grass courts of the English summer. She captured a WTA 125 title in Guadalajara. She delivered a stunning victory over Clara Tauson at the U.S. Open. By the time the 2025 season wrapped up, the conversation around Alexandra Eala had shifted completely. Nobody was talking about potential anymore. They were talking about dominance. And then 2026 arrived, and the dominance intensified. She did not come into the new year quietly. She came in swinging. At Indian Wells, a tournament stacked with the very best the WTA has to offer, Eala walked onto the court against Coco Gauff, the American superstar and reigning major champion, and she outplayed her. She beat Gauff convincingly enough that people stopped treating the result as an upset and started treating it as the natural order of things. Because that is what happens when a player crosses a certain threshold of excellence. Victories stop being surprises and start being expectations. Her run at Indian Wells was ultimately halted by injury, and her Miami campaign was a marathon in itself, a grinding, dramatic, emotionally charged battle through the bottom half of a brutally stacked draw. But even in the moments where things did not go perfectly, she demonstrated the kind of mental fortitude that separates the great from the truly legendary. She refused to fold. She kept competing. She kept representing. That never say die attitude is not a marketing strategy. It is who she is at her core. By March of 2026, she had done something no Filipino tennis player had ever done before. She broke into the top 30 of the WTA singles rankings, hitting a career high of world number 29. No Filipino, man or woman, had ever climbed that high in the history of professional tennis singles. This was not just a personal milestone. This was a national achievement. This was a moment for every kid in the Philippines who ever picked up a tennis racket and dared to dream about something that everyone around them said was impossible. Alexandra Eala made it possible. She did not just crack the top 30, she announced herself as a genuine, sustained threat to every single player ranked above her. Which brings us right back to the Time magazine recognition, because now you understand why it hit so differently. When Time sat down and looked at the global sporting landscape and decided to include Eala among the 100 most influential figures on the planet, they were not just rewarding wins and trophies. They were acknowledging the seismic cultural ripple effect of what this young woman has accomplished. Influence is not just about statistics. Influence is about what you make possible for others. It is about the conversations you change. It is about the stereotypes you shatter and the ceilings you demolish so thoroughly that the next generation does not even know they were ever there. For a young girl growing up in Southeast Asia, turning on her television and seeing someone who looks like her, who eats the food she eats, who speaks the language she speaks at home, completely dismantling the established hierarchy of one of the world's most globally contested sports? That is not just inspiring. That is life-altering. That is the kind of visibility that changes what a young athlete believes is possible for herself. And that, right there, is influence of the highest order. When the Time 100 announcement dropped, the internet responded exactly the way you would expect it to respond to a moment of genuine, historic magnitude. The hashtag EalaTime hit global trending status within minutes. Filipino celebrities, politicians, athletes from completely different sports, and fans from every corner of the globe flooded their social media feeds with messages of pride, joy, and celebration. Videos of her most iconic post-match moments circulated like wildfire. Clips of her tearful, passionate press conference interviews where she proudly speaks Tagalog, where she wraps herself in the Philippine flag, where she refuses to let the global stage erase an ounce of her cultural identity. Those clips got millions and millions of views in a single day. Because that is the thing about Alex Eala that transcends tennis. She has never once pretended to be anything other than exactly who she is. In a world where global stardom often comes with an implicit pressure to sand down your edges, to make yourself palatable to a mass international audience, she has consistently, defiantly, and beautifully chosen to remain completely and unapologetically Filipino. And the world has not just tolerated that authenticity. The world has fallen completely in love with it. Around the same time as the Time honor broke, Eala sat down with Vogue Philippines for a spread that gave the world a deeper, more intimate look at the person behind the headlines. And in that interview, she said 3 words that should send a chill down the spine of every player currently ranked above her: "I'm so hungry." That is not the quote of someone who is satisfied with what she has built.
Pressure of coming back, and it's real. I mean, it's definitely real. I guess it's natural for the public or whoever to have some sort of expectation because I did so well last year.
That is not the quote of someone who is planning to coast on her achievements. That is the quote of someone who has tasted success and decided that it is the most addictive substance on the planet. Despite the ranking milestone, despite the Time honor, despite the Vogue covers and the viral moments and the historic firsts, she is hungry for more. She credited her coach Joan Bosch, her family, and her team for the work they have put in together, but the message was unmistakably clear: she is just warming up. That relentless internal drive is not something you can coach or manufacture. It is something you either have or you do not. Alex Eala has it in spades, and the rest of the WTA Tour is going to feel the full weight of it as this season unfolds. Which is why the next chapter of this story is arguably the most exciting one yet. Right now, as we speak, Eala is back at her adopted home of the Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca, and the reports coming out of those training sessions are enough to make her future opponents seriously reconsider their life choices. She is sharpening every weapon in her already formidable arsenal. Her footwork on clay is reportedly sharper than it has ever been. Her serve has been the subject of intensive retooling. Her aggressive baseline game, always her strongest suit, has been dialed up to terrifying new heights. Because she knows what is coming on the calendar, and she is preparing for it with the seriousness of someone who has circled specific dates on the calendar in red marker and gone to sleep thinking about them every single night. Her clay court season debut is expected at the Upper Austria Ladies Linz Open, a WTA 500 event that is stacked with quality. Emma Raducanu will be there, fresh off her own compelling renaissance. Yelena Ostapenko will be there, still explosive, still dangerous, still carrying that chip on her shoulder. The Linz draw reads like a who's who of players who can do damage on any given day. But nobody is going to be walking into that tournament talking about anyone other than the newly minted Time 100 icon from the Philippines. From Linz, the schedule takes her to Stuttgart, one of the most prestigious clay events of the European spring. Then comes Madrid, a WTA 1000 showdown on the blue clay of the Caja Magica, a tournament where the crowd noise rattles the bones and the competition gets savage. And then, sitting at the very top of the clay court mountain like an impossible golden summit, is Roland Garros. The French Open. The Grand Slam where red clay champions are made immortal. This is the tournament that people have been pointing to ever since Eala started bulldozing her way through the field in 2025. Her aggressive game, her relentless physicality, her clay court DNA forged in the crucible of the Nadal Academy for years, all of it was built for the red dirt of Paris. The question is no longer whether she belongs at Roland Garros. The question is whether Roland Garros is ready for her. If her trajectory holds, if she stays healthy and hungry and continues to evolve, the Parisian crowds at Court Philippe Chatrier better prepare for something they have never quite experienced before. A Filipino warrior, carrying the dreams of millions, playing the best tennis of her life on the grandest stage in the sport. Do not blink. What we are witnessing in real time is something that future tennis fans are going to read about in history books. We are in the Alexandra Eala era, and it is only just beginning. She is no longer a rising star. She is a risen one. She has outgrown every small label that was ever applied to her, every qualifier, every asterisk, but can she do it on the big stage caveat. She has answered every question with her racket and then some. She has forced the global sporting community to respect Southeast Asian tennis, to understand that world-class athletic greatness does not live exclusively in Europe or the Americas, but can be born anywhere where talent meets relentless work and unshakable belief. She has opened a door that was never fully open before, and she has held it open wide enough for every young Filipino athlete who comes after her to walk through with their head held high. The Time magazine recognition is a massive, historic milestone. But Alexandra Eala is not the kind of person who plants a flag on a milestone and sets up camp. She is the kind of person who takes one look at the milestone, appreciates it for exactly what it is, and then immediately starts scanning the horizon for the next peak to conquer. A Grand Slam title. A year-end top 10 finish. A #1 ranking. The dreams are not getting smaller. They are getting bigger. And she has proven, time and time again, that she has exactly what it takes to turn the biggest dreams into stunning, undeniable reality. This is the story of Alexandra Eala. A girl from Quezon City who flew across the world, grounded out on foreign courts, carried the weight of national pride on her shoulders, broke every record in her path, and emerged as one of the most influential athletes on the planet. The best part? She is 20 years old. The best part?
We celebrate our multicultural, and I tell you what, we have some good Filipino whānau in the building tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
She is just getting started. All right, Court Vision Plus family, that is going to do it for today's deep dive, and what an absolute ride it has been. If the story of Alexandra Eala has you fired up, if you are proud, if you are inspired, if you have chills running down your arms right now, show it. Smash that like button right now. Let's get this video the numbers it deserves. Drop into the comments and tell us where you think Alex is going to peak this clay season. Are we talking a Roland Garros quarterfinal? A semifinal? Or is 2026 the year she goes all the way and lifts that Coupe Suzanne Lenglen? We want every single prediction, every hot take, and every prayer you have got. And if you are not already part of the Court Vision Plus family, what are you even doing? Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss a single moment of the most electrifying tennis coverage on the internet. We will see you in the next one. Stay locked in, stay passionate, and never stop believing that greatness can come from absolutely anywhere.
Siyempre surreal, but nakatulong din na nandun si Kuya Brian. I think it was just good vibes to be with the whole delegation.